Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating, it's Saturday, July 14th, 2018. Happy Bastille Day. We're continuing our theme of filming on holidays commemorating acts of violence, which is an odd thing to be doing, but it does seem to be something that is part of the assignments. We really want to talk about this. But before we do, we want to remind everybody that the authorized souls remain only child souls from the deeper, denser dimensions, and all other souls from all other dimensions, as long as the souls are already living by the various Search for Truth rules given to the Search for Truth community by wiser minds above all of us. Our foundational intention remains to do what is ours to do right now in all dimensions, to create worlds that work in all dimensions and for all categories of sentience, since that's what our soul contracts commit us to doing. And now we can return our focus to this topic of, for example, Bastille Day. Just picking an example because today is Bastille Day, not trying to pick on Bastille Day per se.
True.
However, the point is accuracy matters, and there's a tendency to think wrong things, inaccurate thoughts about holidays such as Bastille Day. What happened on Bastille Day is that unrest was already occurring in France.
That's true.
And the commoners were rising up against the aristocracy, and many riots had already occurred. Things were already pretty tense. And the commoners came to the Bastille, which was a prison, and clamored for the release of their loved ones from the prison. Let them out, and possibly they were in there unjustly. That's a separate issue. And the Bastille was very well fortified, and the people in charge of the Bastille had a bunch of weaponry with which to defend themselves, and they talked about it and decided that the right thing to do was to open up the prison and to let the commoners in and to let them get their loved ones and take them out, to do the right thing.
That's
so
true.
Those in charge of the Bastille did the right thing. They opened up the doors, they opened up the fortifications. The commoners charged in and slaughtered those who had just done the right thing. And that's what we're commemorating when we celebrate Bastille Day.
That's true.
Again, this is not to single out Bastille Day. That's not what we're saying, because many of the national holidays also commemorate acts of violence that are equally reprehensible and inappropriate, and we're pretending that something happened that didn't happen, or that something didn't happen that did happen. We're just holding up a fantasy and celebrating a fantasy rather than dealing with the reality.
That's true.
For whom is this message, and why do you ask? I see again this room of very well-intentioned presences from very high up, and they really do think that reality matters and that truth matters, and possibly they think that nothing matters more than what actually did and didn't happen. They really think that really matters.
I see that room.
Yes. And that's great, and those are the types of presences who we like to be of service to, who we like to offer our Search for Truth facilities to, because they care what actually happened. And they've been working to try to come up with a plan that will actually create worlds that work in all dimensions and for all categories of sentience. And they've been meeting using these facilities for, I don't know, maybe 24 hours, maybe.
That's true.
Give or take. And they're really getting a little maybe disturbed at how all the plans seem to hurt someone.
That's true.
There are those who benefit, but there are those who are hurt by plans, and some of these presences are saying, I don't like making things worse. I know what they're talking about. This is that little cellular presence who's saying, I know. When this host life used to live in Sarasota and move in those metaphysical circles of Sarasota, many years ago, we discovered to our horror there was something of a fad in attempting to manipulate the weather.
That's true.
Which we found completely wrong on a lot of levels, including who do we think we are to think we know better than wiser minds above what the weather should be doing. And when those horrible people in that community who are parading around pretending to be good people would do things like try to push the hurricanes away, that's why Hurricane Charlie, who was headed straight for Sarasota, took a sudden right into Boca Grande and slammed into Port Charlotte, who was not prepared for it because it was supposed to hit Sarasota.
That's true.
And it slammed into Port Charlotte, which is a poorer community. So don't hit the poor people, for goodness sake.
That's true.
And second, unprepared. And Charlie went on up the middle of the state, hitting Arcadia, which is an extremely poor community where migrant farm workers live.
That's
devastating
true.
Arcadia, rather than Sarasota, where everybody has plenty of money and we were all shuttered up and ready and stocked up for our hurricane parties.
That's true.
And those people manipulated that, and it would take a lot to convince us that they weren't the cause of that sudden, unexpected course change. And the presences in that community believed themselves to be the cause of it, because later on, which was about the end of our this body's era of having anything to do with those people, they were celebrating that they had shifted the path of the hurricane.
That's true.
First, do no harm. First, do no harm. First, do no harm. Have we forgotten that?
They're talking about Bastille Day again.
I hear them talking about it, and they're talking about how the aristocracy did the right thing, or representatives of the aristocracy in that particular decision made the correct choice, and that is true.
That's true.
And the commoners, by their actions, showed they did not have the moral high ground, that they were as confused as the aristocracy was. They all seemed to think that violence was A-okay.
That's true.
What now? What now? What now? To create worlds that work in all dimensions and for all categories of sentience, since that's what our soul contracts commit us to doing, and to assume that nobody else is going to do anything helpful to
That's true.
create worlds that work no matter what anyone else does or doesn't do. In fact, we can go farther than that and assume that the entrenched power bases will attempt to cling to their power bases. That's what presences do. Somebody's saying, why would they do that? Maybe fear of change, maybe sense of loss. The point is not why they do it. The point is that they do it.
That's
and
true.
It happens pretty consistently in dimension after dimension. Why do you ask? It's a kind of a panicked feeling.
That's true.
Trying to stem the tide, trying to find something, anything to block the train of thinking.
That's true.
You're pointing to that one student. She was wonderful. Her name was Olivia. And she came to the classes and she said, I see now that everything about my life has to change. Everything. And that's how it is for all of us. Everything
That's
about
true.
our lives, it all has to change. Everything has to change. Everything. For whom is the message? And why do you ask? They're still talking about Bastille.
That's true.
Day.
What it feels like is they're holding on to some document. It looks like a very old document.
Yes.
And they're shaking it.
Yes.
And
I
they're
see
saying,
that.
doesn't this prove something? Doesn't this show something?
It should. I agree that it should. I can feel the vibration. It should show something, improve something, but if you actually feel what's actually in it, the answer is no, it doesn't prove or show that. Here's
That's
what
true.
it purports to prove or show, and here's
feel
that
that.
vibration, and this vibration it's not a match. It's
No,
a
that's
different
true.
vibration.
That's
It
true.
doesn't show that. It should, or I don't know whether or not it should, but that's the party line, is that it shows that, but it doesn't.
That's true.
Why do you ask? They're so sad.
So sad.
Somebody else is speaking, and it's a small voice who's spoken before,
That's true.
and who's a good student, and a good student of many of these higher souls who have come through here, and they're
That's
saying,
true.
well, what they have said to almost all of us is that it's not likely that we'll be able to change society, but our attempts to change it are good for us. And they've said that to so many presences in so many dimensions. Is it possible that it also applies to those who are in the room of the discussion right now? That feels better. That
Yeah, it
feels
does.
like the crowns relax a little bit. They were maybe wanting to be able to create outcomes.
I know that feeling.
And that's not how the system works. We're supposed to look up to wiser minds above, ask up, what now, in order to accomplish some facet of the equation of creating worlds that work in all dimensions and for all categories of sentience inside those dimensions, which is a big topic. There's always plenty to do. Pick a facet, any facet. How about reestablishing upward flow, for example? Reestablishing search for truth space, for example.
Oh.
And once we have looked up to wiser minds above and asked up, what now, in order to accomplish some facet, then to do what the wiser minds above say to do, and to do it without attachment to outcome, to just do it, just do it, just do it. And the reason has been explained to us many, many times, is that that's what presences above us think might work. And until we do what they say, they're not going to let it go. They just keep coming back and saying, but you haven't done this thing that I told you to do. If you would only do this thing that I told you to do, maybe the problems would go away. And so by far the super easy path of ease and grace is just to do what they say to do. Just do it. Just do it. And it'll either work or it won't. And when it works, they say, yay, wonderful, and everybody feels good. And when it doesn't work, they say, oh my gosh, you can feel that. Ah! And then they form a new plan, and then we look up and say, okay, what now? And they will give us another idea that we can also try, that may or may not work. But until we try what they've told us to do, they never give it up. It just doesn't ever happen.
That's true.
By far the path of ease and grace is to just do it. Just do it. Just do it. It doesn't matter if it works or doesn't work. You guys are trying to predict, will it work or not work? Who knows? There's only one way to find out, and that's to really go for it like you intend to succeed. And then be
That's true.
okay if it doesn't succeed.
Oh.
And if that's what they say to everybody else, wouldn't it make sense that it might also be helpful to you in this situation? I think some people are leaving.
I think so.
And the ones that are staying are sad that the ones who are leaving, but
That's
they
true.
feel more peaceful in their hearts. And Pan says it's better to know.
That's true.
And I think he's literally saying that. I think Pan must be in that room right now, because look, I can see his lips moving,
That's true.
saying it's better to know. It is better
It's
to
better
know.
to know.
But now, in order to create worlds that work in all dimensions and for all categories of sentience, how about what now in order to stop using bullying? Surely murdering the people who opened the doors at the Bastille, surely that counts as bullying.
That's
But now
true.
to stop using bullying in all dimensions. No bullying, just no more bullying. Again, somebody says we've got to stop rewarding bullies.
That's what they said.
We agree.
I agree.
But now, in order to stop rewarding bullies, who here is willing to stop rewarding their own personal inner bullies? I'm willing, but I have no idea how to do it.
That's
This
totally
cell
true.
is bullying that cell.
Yes.
Make it stop.
I don't know how.
No, I don't either. I got nothing. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. I have the intent to stop the bullying. I can feel, we, the collective, we can feel
That's true.
bullying happening inside of here. We can smell the vibration of bullying. It's
That's
happening.
true.
I've got no idea how to stop it from happening. We, the collective, don't
I don't
know.
have any
I've got
idea.
no starting place. Everything that we try doesn't work. We tune to increase fairness, increase
That's
standards
true.
of integrity. We
That's
pull
true.
up the bullying, lying, cheating, stealing, which lead to bullying. We pull it up. We pull up corruption, which comes after that.
That's true.
We try to pull out that which seems incorporated into bullying
That's true.
and tune to higher pitches and more levels of intensity, that which seems to offset bullying, and still
That's true.
the ambient feeling of internal bullying continues, and it seems almost unchanged. I don't think we're moving the needle on it.
I also don't.
What now?
What now?
What now in order to stop using bullying in all dimensions, in our own inner worlds? Because if we could figure it out here, maybe it's something that could be applicable to the wider sphere.
That's true. Do you hear anything?
Oh, this
You need-
is the multi-dimensional dilemma. They don't know how to do that any more than we do. None of us know how to do that.
That's true.
It's quite the challenge. What now?